The broken promise. The day everything changed. Arya stood in front of the mirror, adjusting the delicate pearl necklace around her neck. Her wedding dress hung on the closet door, a beautiful white gown that represented all her dreams. In just 2 weeks, she would marry Marcus Chen, the man she had loved for 3 years. Her heart felt light and happy. The autumn sunshine came through her bedroom window, making everything look golden and perfect. She smiled at her reflection, not knowing that her perfect life was about to break into 1,000 pieces. Her phone buzzed on the dresser. It was a message from her best friend. "Sophie, can't wait for your big day. Love you." Arya smiled and typed back quickly. Sophie had been her friend since college. They shared everything together: secrets, dreams, late-night talks, and endless cups of coffee. Sophie was going to be her maid of honor. Arya trusted her completely. That trust would soon become her biggest mistake. The unexpected visit. Arya's father called from downstairs. "Sweetheart, can you come here for a moment?" His voice sounded strange, tight and worried. Arya felt a small flutter of concern in her chest. She walked down the elegant staircase of their family home, a beautiful house that had been in her family for 2 generations. Her father stood in the living room, his face pale and his hands shaking. He held a brown envelope in his trembling fingers. "Dad, what's wrong? You look sick," Arya said, rushing to his side. Her father, Robert Hayes, was a strong man who had built their family business from nothing. He owned a successful import company that employed over 200 people. Seeing him look so broken scared Arya deeply. "Sit down, my dear," he said softly. His voice cracked with emotion. Arya sat on the cream-colored sofa, her heart beginning to pound. Her father handed her the envelope. "These documents arrived this morning. I don't know how to tell you this." His eyes filled with tears, something Arya had never seen before. The truth in black and white. With shaking hands, Arya opened the envelope. Inside were photographs and printed documents. The first photograph made her blood turn to ice. It showed Marcus and Sophie together at a restaurant, but they were not just sitting. They were kissing. Sophie's hand was on Marcus's chest. His arm was around her waist. The date stamp showed last week, the same night Marcus told Arya he was working late on an important business deal. Arya's vision blurred with tears, but she forced herself to look at the other photos. There were many. Marcus and Sophie entering a hotel together. Marcus and Sophie shopping for jewelry. Sophie wearing a diamond bracelet that looked expensive and new. Each photograph was like a knife stabbing her heart. But the documents that came next were even worse. The papers showed bank statements and business contracts. Marcus had been slowly stealing money from her father's company for over a year. He had created fake accounts and transferred funds illegally. The total amount stolen was over $2 million. Arya's hands shook so badly that the papers fell to the floor like autumn leaves. Her father caught her as she started to collapse. The collapse of everything. "How long have you known?" Arya whispered, tears streaming down her face. Her beautiful makeup was ruined, black mascara running down her cheeks like dark rivers. Her father held her close, his own tears falling into her hair. "I discovered the financial problems 2 days ago," he said, his voice breaking. "I hired a private investigator immediately. These photos arrived this morning. I'm so sorry, my dear. I wanted to protect you, but I was too late." His body shook with anger and sadness. "That man, he used you to get close to our family. He used your love as a weapon." Arya pulled away and stood up quickly, anger beginning to replace her shock. "I need to confront him. I need to hear him say it to my face." She grabbed her car keys from the table, but her father caught her arm. "Wait, Arya. There's more." He picked up another document from the envelope. "Marcus has been working with Sophie from the beginning. They planned this together. She introduced you to him 3 years ago, remember? It wasn't an accident. They researched our family first. This was always their plan, to steal our money and destroy our business." The room spun around Arya. She remembered that day clearly. Sophie had invited her to a business conference where she accidentally bumped into Marcus. He had been so charming, so kind, so perfect. It had all been a lie, a carefully planned trap, and she had walked into it willingly, bringing her family's trust with her. The confrontation. Arya drove to Marcus's office building in the business district, her hands gripping the steering wheel so tightly that her knuckles turned white. Her father had begged her to stay home, to let the lawyers handle everything, but she needed to see Marcus's face. She needed to understand how someone could be so cruel. The elevator ride to the 20th floor felt like it took forever. Her heart pounded in her chest like a drum. She walked past the shocked receptionist, ignoring the woman's protests, and pushed open the door to Marcus's private office. What she saw made her freeze in the doorway. Marcus and Sophie were there together, drinking champagne and laughing. Sophie was sitting on Marcus's desk, her legs crossed, wearing the diamond bracelet from the photographs. They both turned to look at Arya, and for a moment, nobody spoke. The shock on their faces quickly changed to something else. Something that looked almost like relief. "Arya," Marcus said, standing up slowly. He didn't look guilty or ashamed. Instead, he smiled coldly. "I was wondering when you would figure it out. You took longer than I expected. I thought you were smarter than that." The cruelest words. Sophie slid off the desk and walked toward Arya, her high heels clicking on the marble floor. "Oh, Arya," she said, her voice full of fake sympathy. "You look terrible. Did you cry all the way here?" She laughed, a cruel sound that echoed in the large office. This was not the friend Arya had known for years. This was a stranger wearing Sophie's face. "How could you?" Arya whispered, her voice barely audible. "I trusted you. I loved you both. You were my best friend, Sophie. You were going to be my maid of honor." Tears fell down her face, but she didn't wipe them away. She wanted them to see her pain. She wanted them to feel something. Marcus walked around his desk and stood next to Sophie. He put his arm around Sophie's waist possessively. "Let me explain something to you, Arya," he said, his voice cold and businesslike. "This was never about love. It was always about money. Your father's company, your family's reputation, your connections, those were valuable. You were just the key that opened the door." Sophie nodded, her eyes sparkling with malice. "You were so easy to manipulate, Arya.
So trusting, so naive, so boring.
Did you really think a man like Marcus would want someone like you? You're too soft, too kind, too weak. I did you a favor by introducing you to him. At least you got to experience 3 years of pretending someone loved you." The final blow. Arya felt like she was drowning in icy water. Each word was a stone pulling her down deeper. But Marcus wasn't finished destroying her. He walked to his desk and picked up a folder, throwing it at Arya's feet. The papers scattered across the expensive carpet. "Those are the bankruptcy documents for your father's company," Marcus said casually, as if he was discussing the weather. "By the end of this month, Hayes Import Company will no longer exist. All the employees will lose their jobs. Your family's reputation will be destroyed. And the best part? It's all completely legal. I made sure of that." Arya bent down and picked up one of the documents with shaking hands. The legal language was confusing, but she understood enough. Marcus had created a web of fake debts and bad investments that made it look like her father had made terrible business decisions. Even if they went to court, proving Marcus's guilt would be almost impossible. He had planned everything perfectly. "But why?" Arya asked, looking up at them. "Why hurt so many innocent people? The employees at my father's company have families. They depend on those jobs. What did they ever do to you?" Marcus shrugged. "I don't care about them. I care about building my own empire, and your father's company was a stepping stone. Besides, destroying Hayes Import will remove one of my competitors from the market. It's just good business." His eyes were empty of any human feeling. Arya realized she had never truly known this man at all. The breaking point. Sophie walked closer and leaned down to whisper in Arya's ear. "Your father will probably have a heart attack when his company fails. Old men like him can't handle such big losses. And you? You'll spend the rest of your life taking care of a broken old man in a cheap apartment somewhere. No money, no friends, no future. That's what you deserve for being so pathetically naive. Something inside Arya snapped. She stood up quickly and slapped Sophie across the face with all her strength. The sound echoed through the office like a gunshot. Sophie stumbled backward, her hand flying to her red cheek, her eyes wide with shock and anger. "You'll pay for that," Sophie screamed, but Marcus held her back, still smiling that cold, cruel smile. "Let her go," Marcus said calmly. "She's already finished. There's nothing she can do to hurt us now. Look at her. She's completely broken." He walked to the door and opened it, gesturing for Arya to leave. "Goodbye, Arya. Thanks for everything. Oh, and you don't need to return the engagement ring. Consider it a souvenir of your stupidity." The darkest hour. Arya walked out of that office building like a ghost. She didn't remember getting to her car or driving home. Everything was a blur of tears and pain. When she arrived home, she found ambulances and police cars parked outside. Her heart stopped. She ran inside to find paramedics carrying her father on a stretcher. His face was gray, his breathing shallow. "Dad!" Arya screamed, running to his side. A paramedic gently pushed her back. "Are you his daughter? Your father had a massive heart attack. We need to get him to the hospital immediately. You can follow us there." The paramedic's voice was professional but kind. Arya nodded numbly, unable to speak. At the hospital, doctors worked for hours to save her father's life. Arya sat in the cold, sterile waiting room, still wearing her ruined makeup, her designer clothes wrinkled and stained with tears. Other families came and went. Some received good news. Others left crying. Arya sat frozen, waiting for her turn. Finally, a tired-looking doctor approached her. "Miss Hayes, your father is stable, but his condition is very serious. The heart attack was severe. He'll need months of recovery and constant care. The stress must have been overwhelming for him." The doctor looked at her with sympathy. "He kept saying something about the company, about failing his family. Do you know what that means?" Arya nodded, fresh tears falling. "Yes, doctor. I know exactly what it means." Her father had worked his entire life to build something good and honest. And in one day, Marcus had destroyed it all. The stress of discovering the theft and betrayal had literally broken her father's heart. The stranger in the shadows. Arya spent the night at the hospital, holding her father's hand while he slept, connected to various machines that beeped and hummed in the quiet room. Her phone buzzed constantly with messages and calls from relatives and friends who had heard the news. She ignored them all. What could she say? How could she explain that she had trusted the wrong people and destroyed her family? Around midnight, a nurse came in to check her father's vital signs. "Miss Hayes, you should go home and rest. You look exhausted. Your father won't wake up until tomorrow morning at the earliest." The nurse's voice was gentle and concerned. Arya shook her head. "I can't leave him alone. What if something happens?" Her voice was hoarse from crying. The nurse smiled sadly and left, understanding that sometimes people need to keep watch over the ones they love. As dawn broke through the hospital window, Arya finally stood up to stretch her aching muscles. She walked to the window and looked out at the city waking up below. People were starting their normal days, going to work, buying coffee, checking their phones. Their lives continued as usual while hers had completely fallen apart. She felt disconnected from the world, like she was watching everything through thick glass. A soft knock on the door made her turn around. A man stood in the doorway, tall and dressed in an expensive black suit. He had dark hair, sharp features, and eyes that seemed to see everything. There was something dangerous about him, something that made Arya's heart beat faster, but not from fear. It was something else, something she couldn't name. "Miss Arya Hayes?" the stranger asked, his voice deep and smooth. He spoke quietly, respectful of the hospital setting.
Arya nodded slowly, confused.
She didn't recognize this man at all. The mysterious proposal. "My name is Dante Moretti," the stranger said. stepping into the room but keeping a respectful distance. I apologize for the intrusion during such a difficult time. I heard about what happened to you and your father. I have a proposal that might interest you. Arya felt a surge of anger. If you're another lawyer or businessman trying to take advantage of my situation, please leave. I can't deal with any more cruelty today. Her voice was sharp despite her exhaustion. Dante raised his hands in a peaceful gesture. I'm not here to take advantage of you, Miss Hayes. I'm here to offer you something. Revenge. The word hung in the air between them like a dangerous promise. Arya stared at him, trying to understand if she had heard correctly. Revenge? She repeated slowly. What are you talking about? Who are you really? She moved protectively toward her father's bed, putting herself between this stranger and her vulnerable parent. Dante pulled out a leather business card holder and offered her a card. It was simple black with silver lettering, Dante Moretti Private Investment and Acquisitions. There was a phone number but no other information. Marcus Chun destroyed more than just your family, Miss Hayes, Dante said, his voice cold with controlled anger. 5 years ago, he did something similar to my younger sister. She trusted him. He used her and destroyed her life. She couldn't handle the shame and betrayal. He paused, his jaw clenching. She took her own life 2 years ago. I've been waiting for the right moment to make Marcus pay for what he did. A devil's bargain. Arya felt a chill run down her spine. This man's pain was real. She could see it in his eyes, in the way his hands clenched into fists when he spoke about his sister. I'm sorry for your loss, she said quietly. But what does this have to do with me? Dante moved closer, his intense gaze never leaving her face. Marcus used you to get to your father's company. But what if we used his arrogance and cruelty against him? What if we made him lose everything the same way he made others lose everything? I have the money, the connections, and the business knowledge. You have something equally valuable, you know Marcus personally. You know his weaknesses, his patterns, his secrets. You want me to help you destroy him, Arya said. It wasn't a question. She understood exactly what this dangerous stranger was offering. Part of her wanted to say no, to walk away from revenge and try to rebuild her life with dignity. But another part of her, a part she didn't know existed until today, wanted to make Marcus and Sophie suffer the way they had made her and her father suffer. Dante nodded. I want to give you the tools to take back everything he stole from you and more. But I won't lie to you, Miss Hayes. This won't be easy. Revenge is a difficult path. It will change you. It will require you to become stronger, harder, smarter. You'll have to face Marcus again and again without showing weakness. Are you capable of that? The choice that changes everything. Arya looked at her father sleeping in the hospital bed, his face still gray and tired. She thought about all the employees who would lose their jobs when the company failed. She thought about Sophie's cruel laughter and Marcus's cold smile. She thought about the 3 years of her life that had been nothing but an elaborate lie. What exactly would I have to do? She asked, turning back to Dante. Her voice was steadier now, the initial shock beginning to fade. Something new was growing inside her, something fierce and determined. Dante smiled slightly, recognizing the change in her tone. First, you'll need to disappear for a while. Let Marcus and Sophie think they've won completely. During that time, I'll train you business strategy, negotiation, self-defense, how to read people, how to hide your emotions. You'll need to become someone new, someone strong enough to face them without breaking. And then, Arya asked, her heart pounding. Then we'll return and systematically destroy everything Marcus has built, just as he destroyed your father's company. We'll expose his crimes, ruin his reputation, take away his money, and make sure he loses everything he values, including Sophie. Dante's voice was calm but filled with dark promise. But I need to know you're committed. Once we start this, there's no turning back. Revenge is not a game. Arya thought about the kind, naive girl she had been just yesterday. That girl was gone, killed by betrayal and cruelty. In her place was someone new, someone who understood that sometimes kindness wasn't enough. Sometimes you had to fight back. She extended her hand to Dante. "I'm in," she said firmly. "Teach me everything. I want them to feel the same pain they caused. I want them to understand what it's like to lose everything. I want revenge." Dante shook her hand, his grip strong and warm. "Then we have a deal, Miss Hayes. Welcome to your new life. By the time we're finished, Marcus-chan will wish he had never heard your name." As the morning sun continued to rise outside the hospital window, Arya felt something she hadn't felt since discovering the truth about Marcus and Sophie. She felt hope, not the innocent hope of her old life, but something darker and more powerful. It was the hope of someone who had fallen into darkness and decided not to drown, but to learn to breathe in the shadows. Her old life was over. Her new life, a life of transformation, strategy, and calculated revenge, was just beginning. Marcus and Sophie had broken her heart and destroyed her family. Now, with Dante's help, she would break them in return. The innocent girl who believed in true love and friendship was gone forever. In her place stood someone new, someone dangerous, someone ready for war. The broken promise. Tea rising from the ashes, where Arya begins her transformation and discovers that revenge is more complicated than she imagined. 3 days after making her deal with Dante, Arya left everything behind. She wrote a letter to her father, explaining that she needed time away to heal and think. She didn't tell him about Dante or the revenge plan. Her father was too weak, too fragile. He needed to focus on recovery, not worry about his daughter's dangerous new path. The hospital staff promised to take good care of him, and Arya had arranged for private nurses using money Dante had provided. Dante took her to a private estate outside the city, hidden in the mountains where nobody could find them. The house was modern and beautiful, with floor-to-ceiling windows that looked out over forests and valleys. It was peaceful and isolated, the perfect place to transform from a broken girl into a weapon of revenge. Arya stood on the balcony that first night, breathing in the cold mountain air. The city lights twinkled far below, and somewhere down there, Marcus and Sophie were celebrating their victory. They thought they had won. They had no idea what was coming. "Are you ready to begin?" Dante's voice came from behind her. He had changed from his business suit into casual clothes, dark jeans and a black sweater. He looked less intimidating but somehow more real. Arya turned to face him, her jaw set with determination. "I'm ready," she said. "Tell me what I need to do. The training begins." The first week was the hardest. Dante woke Arya at 5 every morning for physical training. She had never been athletic before. Her life had been comfortable, easy, soft. Now she ran through mountain trails until her lungs burned and her legs felt like they would collapse. She learned basic self-defense moves, falling and getting up again and again until her body was covered in bruises. "Why do I need to fight?" Arya gasped one morning, wiping sweat from her face. "I thought this was about business revenge, not physical combat." Her muscles screamed with pain, and she wanted nothing more than to quit and rest. Dante handed her a water bottle, his expression serious. "Because you need to know you can defend yourself. Right now, you're afraid of Marcus, afraid of confrontation, afraid of your own weakness. Physical strength builds mental strength. When you know you can handle pain, when you know you won't break under pressure, you'll carry yourself differently. People will see it. Marcus will see it." Arya understood. She pushed through the pain and continued training. By the end of the second week, she could run 5 miles without stopping. She could throw a punch that actually had power behind it. Her body was changing, becoming stronger and leaner. But the physical training was only the beginning. Business lessons from a master. During the afternoons, Dante taught Arya about business, real business, not the simple accounting and management she had learned in college. He showed her how companies truly operated, how money moved through hidden channels, how people used legal loopholes to steal and manipulate. He taught her to read financial statements like they were stories, seeing the lies hidden between the numbers. Marcus made one critical mistake. Dante explained one afternoon as they sat in his study, surrounded by papers and computer screens. He thought he was untouchable because his theft was technically legal. But legal doesn't mean ethical, and it doesn't mean permanent. Every empire has weak points. We just need to find them and strike at the right moment. Arya leaned forward, her eyes sharp with focus. She was different now, even after just 2 weeks. Her soft edges were hardening into something more dangerous. What are his weak points? Dante smiled, pleased with her question. Marcus's company is built on borrowed money and his reputation. He takes out loans to invest in other businesses, making money from other people's success. If his reputation is damaged, the banks will stop lending to him. If the banks stop lending, his whole empire collapses like a house of cards. And Sophie? Arya asked. Just saying the name made her angry, but she controlled it now. Dante had taught her that anger was a tool, not a weakness, but only if you controlled it instead of letting it control you. Sophie is his weak point, Dante said. Marcus doesn't actually love her. I've been investigating them both. He's already starting to get bored with her. She's useful to him now because she knows your family's secrets. But once he's finished destroying your father's company, what value does she have? We can use their relationship against them. People who don't truly trust each other are easy to divide. The makeover. After 4 weeks of training, Dante brought in a team of professionals. A stylist, a makeup artist, and a personal shopper. Arya was confused at first. I thought we were focused on business and strategy. Why does my appearance matter? Dante sat across from her in the living room, his fingers steepled thoughtfully. Because when you return to society, you need to look like someone who has risen above what they did to you. Right now, you look like a victim who's been hiding and healing. We need you to look like a queen who's been preparing for war. Image is power, Arya. People judge you in the first 3 seconds they see you. We're going to make sure those 3 seconds count. The transformation took an entire day. The stylist cut Arya's long brown hair into a sleek, shoulder-length style that framed her face perfectly. The color was darkened to a rich chocolate brown that made her eyes look more intense. The makeup artist taught her how to enhance her features, not to hide behind makeup, but to use it as armor. Bold lips, dramatic eyes, a look that said, I'm not afraid of you anymore. The clothes were completely different from Arya's old wardrobe. Gone were the soft pastels and delicate fabrics. The new clothes were sharp, powerful. Tailored suits in black and deep red, elegant dresses that commanded attention. High heels that made her taller and more imposing. When Arya looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. The naive girl was completely gone. In her place stood a woman who looked like she could walk into any boardroom and dominate. Perfect, Dante said, seeing her transformation. Now you look like someone Marcus should fear. Unexpected feelings. As the weeks turned into months, something unexpected began to happen. Arya and Dante spent every day together. Training, planning, eating meals, talking late into the night about strategy and life. Slowly, Arya began to see beyond Dante's cold exterior. She learned about his sister, Elena, who had been kind and trusting just like Arya. She learned about Dante's guilt for not protecting Elena, about how he had spent 5 years building his fortune specifically so he could one day destroy Marcus. One night, 2 months into her training, they sat on the balcony watching the stars. Arya had just successfully completed a complex business negotiation simulation that Dante had created for her. She felt proud and strong, so different from the broken girl who had arrived here. Why are you really helping me? Arya asked suddenly. You could have destroyed Marcus yourself years ago. You have the money and power. Why wait? Why involve me? Dante was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was softer than usual. Because revenge alone isn't enough. I learned that over the past 5 years. I could destroy Marcus financially tomorrow if I wanted to. But it wouldn't bring Elena back. It wouldn't heal the pain. I was starting to realize that revenge was just making me more empty and bitter. He turned to look at her, and in the moonlight, his eyes showed a vulnerability she had never seen before. Then what changed? Arya asked, her heart beating faster. You changed everything, Dante said simply. When I heard about what Marcus did to you, I saw a chance to do something meaningful. Not just destroy him, but help someone rise from the ashes. Give you the tools to reclaim your life and power. Watching you transform over these months. Watching you become strong and confident. That's given me more satisfaction than 5 years of planning revenge ever did. Arya felt something shift in her chest. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. Somewhere along the way, she had started to care about Dante, not as a mentor or a tool for revenge, but as a man. A complicated, damaged man who was trying to find meaning in his pain, just like she was. The first test. 3 months after Arya's disappearance, Dante decided it was time for her first real test. There's a charity gala next week, he explained, showing her the invitation on his computer. Many business leaders will be there, including Marcus and Sophie. You're going to attend as my date. We'll let them see you for the first time since you disappeared. But you cannot show weakness. You cannot let them see that they still have power over you. Arya felt nervous excitement rush through her. She was ready for this. She had trained for this. What's our goal for the evening? She asked, her voice steady and professional. Simple, Dante said. We plant seeds of doubt. We make Marcus wonder what you've been doing. We make Sophie jealous and insecure. We show everyone that you're not a victim, but a force to be reckoned with. Most importantly, we make our first move on his business partners. I've identified 3 key investors who support Marcus's company. If we can make them question his judgment, we start the process of isolating him. For the next week, Arya prepared intensely. She memorized background information on everyone who would be at the gala. She practiced walking in her heels until she could move like a model on a runway. She rehearsed conversations with Dante, learning how to be charming but mysterious, friendly but intimidating. By the night of the gala, she was ready. The return. The charity gala was held at the Grand Palais Hotel, the most luxurious venue in the city. Arya arrived in a stunning blood-red dress that hugged her transformed figure perfectly. Her hair was styled in elegant waves, her makeup was flawless, and she wore diamond earrings that Dante had given her. Alone, he said, but they looked real and expensive. She stepped out of the limousine, and immediately, people turned to stare. Dante offered his arm, looking devastating in a custom black tuxedo. Together, they looked like power couple from a movie. Wealthy, beautiful, and slightly dangerous. As they walked through the grand entrance, Arya's heart pounded, but she kept her face calm and confident. This was her moment. The ballroom was magnificent, with crystal chandeliers, golden decorations, and hundreds of wealthy guests in expensive clothes. An orchestra played soft classical music in one corner. Waiters moved through the crowd carrying trays of champagne and fancy appetizers. Arya accepted a glass of champagne, her hand steady despite her racing heart. There, Dante murmured, nodding toward the other side of the room. Near the bar, Arya looked and saw them. Marcus and Sophie stood together, dressed elegantly, laughing with a group of business associates. Marcus wore a custom tuxedo and a Rolex watch that probably cost more than most people's cars. Sophie wore a white designer gown, probably trying to look innocent and pure. Arya felt anger rise in her chest, but she controlled it just as Dante had taught her. Remember the plan, Dante whispered. We don't approach them first. We let them come to us. Confidence is about not needing to prove anything. The shock. For the first hour, Arya and Dante mingled with other guests, staying on the opposite side of the ballroom from Marcus and Sophie. Arya was charming and poised, impressing business leaders with her knowledge and sophistication. Several people asked who she was, and Dante introduced her as my business partner and dear friend. The term business partner carried weight. It meant Arya had access to Dante's considerable wealth and connections. Then, inevitably, it happened. Arya was talking to Mr. Harrison, one of Marcus's key investors, when she heard a glass shatter nearby. She turned to see Sophie standing frozen, her champagne glass in pieces at her feet, staring at Arya with an expression of complete shock. Arya. Sophie's voice was loud enough that people nearby turned to look. The orchestra continued playing, but a bubble of attention formed around them. Marcus, who had been talking to someone else, turned quickly and saw Arya. His confident smile faltered for just a second before he recovered. Arya smiled. Not the warm, friendly smile of her old self, but a cool, composed smile that gave nothing away. "Hello, Sophie. Hello, Marcus. It's been a while." Her voice was calm and pleasant, as if she was greeting acquaintances she barely remembered, not the people who had destroyed her life. Marcus recovered his composure and walked over, Sophie following behind him. Up close, Arya could see the confusion in their eyes. She looked completely different, stronger, more sophisticated, more powerful. This was not the broken, crying girl they had last seen. "Arya," Marcus said, his voice carefully neutral. "This is unexpected. We heard you had left the city. Everyone was worried about you." His eyes flicked to Dante, trying to assess who this new man was. "Playing the game,"